All right, guys. Third topic of the day. This one comes from one of the beautiful users over on the Kind of Funny forums at kindoffunny.com/forums. What's going on there, Greg?
He tossed out his little thing and hit my iPad, so now I'm hitting my iPad.
Shit's going down. Glorious G123 says, greetings, Kind of Funny. This is Power from the Show Me State here.
Power.
Shout out to my boy, Greg Miller.
Missouri is the Show Me State. Mm-hmm. They have this awesome restaurant called Show Me's, and it's a complete ripoff of Hooters.
Good.
And it's just
I like that name. That's good.
Exactly. Their color scheme is this ugly ass blue and this hot pink.
Ooh, I'm into that.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Nick Scarpino special.
And next time we go to Missouri, we're going to Show Me's. Not to eat the food, just to take a photo and get the hell out of there.
Okay. I'm into that. You down, Nick?
Yeah, I'm not sure my name.
Cool.
We're going to go to a really bad restaurant called Show Me's.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Recently, head of Xbox Phil Spencer announced a merger between its PC and Xbox platforms. In doing so, Microsoft is increasing the lifespan of the current gen of this hardware by adding a moddable alternative interface other than a newer console down the road. Just want to know your thoughts and if this is a good move by Microsoft as a whole. Now, Greg.
Yeah.
You also brought this up.
I did. I thought you were skipping me for the users.
Oh, yeah, no. That was the launch pad. You got the facts. There's updates to this story. There's a whole bunch of stuff.
We'll start at Polygon.
Yes.
Where our good friend, Colin Campbell, wrote about everything that happened. The headline was Phil Spencer signals Xbox One hardware upgrades. During his Xbox Spring Showcase event keynote last week, Microsoft's head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, talked about the future of hardware innovation for the console, similar to the ways PCs evolve. In a speech to reporters, he said that Xbox One could see a future in which it is upgraded rather than replaced by new consoles. Spencer was talking about how Microsoft has sought to align its Windows 10 and Xbox One development activities under the internal Universal Windows platform, while offering backwards compatibility for many Xbox 360 games. Now playable on Xbox One. He was addressing the concerns of some Xbox One owners that exclusives destined for the console are appearing on PC, thus eroding the value of owning a console. You'll actually see us come out with new generation hardware capability during a generation. This was the pull quote they put there. But he went much further than merely outlining internal strategies for cross-platform efficiency. He argued that consoles could and should be upgradable like PCs, and that the model of generation shifts may be coming to an end. Quote, we see other platforms, whether it be mobile or PC, that you get a continuous innovation that you rarely see on console. Consoles lock the hardware and the software platforms together at the beginning of the generation. Then you ride the generation out for 7 or so years while the ecosystems are getting better, faster, stronger. And then you wait for the next big step function. When you look at the console space, I believe we will see more hardware innovation in the console space than we've ever seen. You'll actually see us come out with new hardware capability during a generation, allowing the same games to run backward and forward compatible because we have a universal Windows application running on top of the universal Windows platform. That allows us to focus more and more on hardware innovation without invalidating the games that run on that platform. A lot of words there. Mm-hmm. This is where the comment starts from, blah, 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 blah. The update came via Major Nelson's podcast over there. I'm reading a report from Gary Jones over at express.co.uk. Oi, governor. He says, having raised the possibility of console hardware upgrading becoming available in the future, Spencer now insists that Microsoft looking more at taking advantage of innovations to technology when they arrive later in the device's life cycle. This is the quote from the podcast. Am I going to break open my console and start upgrading individual pieces of my console? That's not our plan, he said on the Major Nelson podcast. There is something special about what happens with a console. You buy an appliance-like device, you plug it into your TV, it works when you plug it in. It's not like I'm going to ship a screwdriver set with every console that comes out. What I'm saying is as hardware innovations happen, we want to be able to embrace those in the console space and make those available and maybe not have to wait 7 or 8 years for things to happen. But right now, we're not announcing hardware. So that's the part to that and this huge confusion. Boom. Yeah. Is it just going to be PC games on this universal platform and everything?
So what do you guys think? Like, is this
I don't know how to do it without a screwdriver.
I think
is he saying that he's saying there's not going to be they're not announcing new hardware, but is it going to be that there's an add-on for my Xbox One out there, or there'll be a new Xbox 1.5 or 1.5 I need to get?
I mean, I think either way it could work. It could either be, because he's talking about you want to get that thing, you buy it once and it just works. So it could be an Xbox 1.5 or just, the slim version or whatever that has slightly different things.
Sure.
Or it could be something like the Xbox 360's HD DVD drive that's more of like a peripheral that you attach to it that gives it different functionality. I mean, we've seen that stuff for years,
right?
You know, the
but not on
expansion pack
this. Yeah, expansion pack
on the
sure.
N64, and then we saw like with during the Genesis era of Sega, like they just kept adding on top.
And
of
that's the thing about it, though, with like specifically with the N64 expansion pack, right? Is that was designed, and Sega Saturn's expansion pack too. That was designed from the ground up to be that, right? Whereas Xbox One theoretically wasn't. It was going to be this entertainment machine and this, that, and the other.
I mean, I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that because you say that because the N64 had the spot for it, right? The Xbox One has a USB port. Like
Sure.
it's pretty much it's the same thing. Like the way things work now, it's just, especially with the Windows platform that they're talking about. Like I don't think that they planned it with that not in mind. You know, and I think that's one of those things that the options are definitely there. And like you already kind of do it with external hard drives and stuff, you know, where you could open it up and put other hard drives in there, or you can just attach an external drive and that gives new functionality and like you can install games and all that stuff. So I'm more interested in seeing like what they actually mean by this.
I'm fascinated by the idea. That's, you know, top of the line. I just right now, as dumb Greg Miller, who doesn't understand business or hardware, can't wrap my head around it. In the way of like there's a big difference between plugging in a hard drive again to a hard drive to a slot that's, you know, made to be expandable like PS4 or whatever, versus plugging in a USB one. Put those together versus whatever the hell this would be. You know what I mean? Because you're talking about processing power and this, that, and the other. And the analog, I guess, is PlayStation VR, but that box is already debated hotly of what exactly it does and where it's going to take anything. Yeah. And so that's the thing with, for me, I think it would have to be that it would be the Xbox 1.5 or whatever that you put out that has more ability. But even that, how do you do that and not screw over Xbox One owners like me?
So there's another question from the forums that kind of leads into this from Seinfeld Fan 24. Super Nintendo games are now available in the eShop on the 3DS. Sort of. Need to vent. So I own a Nintendo 3DS XL and I like it quite a bit. I don't play it often because I don't travel, but I like it nonetheless. I was very excited to see that Super Mario World and Super Metroid were coming to Virtual Console on the 3DS. I went to the eShop and lo and behold, quickly realized they're only compatible with the new 3DS model. What a load of fucking shit. Money grubby, greedy people Nintendo is. You can't tell me they can't get a Super Nintendo game running on a regular 3DS. They can, they just want you to buy the newer model. This made me turn me off of Nintendo permanently. An extreme opinion, yes, but warranted in my opinion. I think that's an issue that you face with something like the Xbox 1.5. Right. You know, you can't really and you saw it with the PlayStation Move or the Kinect last gen. Like, you can't just put something out there that not everyone has and expect all the games to take advantage of it. And that means no games take advantage of it, at least none of, you know, any consequence, because they're not going to put stuff out unless it's like Dance Central or, you know, little things here and there. So that's why I think it needs to be something that's more either with this Xbox or it is just everyone, like, they expect you to do new stuff. But I like that they're talking about software a lot too, and like the whole Windows platform and all that stuff. And we saw with Xbox One being able to add the backwards compatibility, like maybe there's something there that they are talking about. Just this generation is going to be more expandable than any generation previously has because of things like firmware updates. We saw the beginning of that last time with the PS3 and Xbox, but we're just going to see more and more and more of it. It's interesting that we're a couple years into this gen though, and they're talking about this stuff, but if they're going to get it going, it needs to get going pretty soon.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think, Colin?
No, I think it's a good idea. I think that we're ignoring the fact that the processing doesn't even have to be on the console itself. It can be through the cloud. So these kinds of things can just run on programs that are not native necessarily to Xbox One and then or PS4 or whatever they want to run them on, and then you can just mirror those experiences as long as there's low latency or no latency, which there can be no latency, but low latency. That's a possibility as well to have backwards and forward compatibility. And
that's my problem. The Xbox out there, 1 out of 3 times fails running Skype. You know what I mean? I don't anticipate it being able to beam up to the cloud to get to whatever processing power it needs.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting thing. I think that they're kind of just spitballing ideas that are probably in R&D, and this isn't something that's new. I mean, Sony was talking about this not too long ago, where people were talking about PS 4.1, some months ago. The idea, and I remember saying this frankly about, before the consoles came out, that I was surprised, or there was conjecture about it, and then I was surprised that like these aren't naturally or obviously expandable. There's no reason to make new hardware because the margins on hardware get big. The capital margins get higher on hardware the older the consoles become, to where they become quite profitable. But the money's really made on software. So if you give people a reason to own a console and give them a reason to believe that it's going to exist and be relevant for more than 5 or 6 or 7 years, but to exist maybe for 10 or 20 years if you wanted to, with a bunch of expansions and things like that. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need a screwdriver to do it. Your expansion pack N64 argument is apt. Majora's Mask, for instance, couldn't be played without it. So it's something, but that didn't stop anyone from playing Majora's Mask.
Well, that's also because it came with it, or certain maybe Majora's did.
Well, Majora's
Donkey Kong Country 64 came with it, so they incentivized people to get that.
Yeah, Majora's didn't come with it, but the point is that they gave them enough time where like this seemed like it was a rational thing because there was enough games that used it, and you got to a point where it made sense, and you couldn't imagine your N64 without this thing kind of just in there. You didn't really think about it, at least I didn't. So I think that it's a natural idea. I don't know that I think it might compete with some obvious business interest of selling hardware, new hardware. But I also think that these companies have to smartly look at the idea that hardware won't exist the way it does forever. I think that it's a surprise to them that these consoles are doing as well as they are. So they have to think about the next iteration, because I think that maybe they thought this was going to be the last generation, and it's clearly not. So, so I think that there's a lot of like moving parts behind the scenes of them trying to figure out what it is. And I think a lot of this stuff kind of gets bubbled to the top. It's not like Phil Spencer's not a stupid man, and he's also the man that makes a lot of decisions. And I don't think that Phil Spencer just went like, we're thinking about this for fun, or he made a mistake or flubbed. It's like he's doing it maybe to see like what people think.
Yeah,
and so. Good. And then have his marketing people and PR people just go through everything and be like, this is what everyone's saying. So is it a good idea? I think so. I think it's very pro-consumer. Yeah. But I also don't know that these consoles are necessarily built for this either.
And that's my big concern.
I mean, see, I think that they are. And I think that the USB kind of shows that. Like even with the Wii U, who would have thought that you'd be able to play with GameCube controllers? You did. That's a whole new functionality, and they're not talking necessarily about making
whole new functionality that debuted on the Wii.
What?
Nothing. I'm making fun of the fact that the Wii had it built in.
But that's the Wii had it built in, but the Wii U didn't, and then it did because of the USB. And that's what I'm saying is like you can add things because USB is so universal. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, but that's not something that fundamentally changes your gaming experience. So it does, but it's just a peripheral.
Well, I know, but I mean that's.
But this is my problem with this. Like, I think it makes perfect business sense, and I think it's a very smart thing for them to be doing. But I think, from my mind anyway, there's only two ways you implement this. And one is, like you're saying, the physical way to implement this, which, then you split your demographic. And the other way, which I think they're 100% doing, is what Colin's saying, to do with the cloud. And I think you can tell that because of Crackdown 3. And that's leaning on those cloud things for like 10 times destructibility with stuff. And I think that's exactly where they're going to try out this kind of platform. How much can we improve our games remotely? Which to me personally as a consumer is fucking terrifying, because every single problem that I have in my life to do with gaming is because they're all fucking online.
Yeah.
Like it goes down for a couple of days, a couple of weeks ago. Guess what? I can't play any of my downloaded games. I'm traveling and I don't get good internet reception in a hotel because you can't connect because of password.
Yeah,
blah, blah,
and you're
blah.
just done.
I can't play anything. And it's so frustrating. I paid money for these things.
Yeah.
And I can't play them. It's ridiculous. And nothing is dependable, and it's really kind of arrogant to think that the world is ready for cloud with everything. Like, it's not. The world isn't ready for that at all. But I think it makes perfect sense that they explore that, definitely, and they build towards that. For me, in my mind, it's not ready for 10 years, something like that, to actually work properly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I also think there's something to be said about the demographic of Alienware and Steam boxes and stuff are gradually, like, they're trying to encroach on the console space, and now consoles are trying to encroach on the PC space, and it's like, I'm way more interested, like, in the games I can't play on my console, buying a Steam box or buying an Alienware, and cool, I just sit there in those few games, which have become increasingly less because so much cool stuff comes to console now. But I can play those things on that, and I can play in a way that to me makes sense because I'm using a 360 pad or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm personally not at all interested in consoles getting away from that. Guess what? Every 8 years you have that exciting thing. You buy your new box, it works, everything just fucking works, and off you go.
Yeah.
Like, if I wanted to mod things, if I wanted to change things, if I wanted to, I would get into PC gaming. You know, that option's already there. And the people who want to do that are doing it. So I don't really see, the more that they push console into that gap, who it's appealing to, really.
Yeah.
Because it's just, in my head, it's just great. My life's going to get more complicated. And I want it to get less complicated.
You'll pack your Xbox One, but you won't pack the additional add-on that allows you to play Quantum Break 4.
Exactly.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting it's coming up now because, up until now, almost all the consoles had something that did this. Like even like PS2 and GameCube had the Ethernet adapters, the network adapter, and all that stuff, or the hard drive of the PS2. And then I guess PS3 gen didn't really have anything like that. Xbox,
you mentioned the HD
kind of did with it. Yeah, but that was.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
In terms
I mean
of
that was
that
functionality in terms of it could play a movie. You know what I mean? It wasn't so much for game stuff. I guess they had the hard drive though. Like it did have that. But this is the first generation really that's just like there isn't slots on the system for different connecting
Prepared to put
things.
anything in.
Yeah.
There was, of course,
the Vita. Yeah.
the Phantom Vita slot that we never found out what it was meant for, and then slowly, quietly taken away.
No, we never will.
I assume it was going to plug into the Vita GPS unit. That the PSP. Where's my PSP GPS, Shuhei Yoshida? Fucking, why'd I even waste my time writing hands-on impressions of that shit at Comic-Con 2008 if it was never going to show up? You owe me my time, Shuhei.